So joining me now, Karl Rove is former Deputy Chief of Staff for President George W. Bush and a Fox News contributor. Adrian Elrod served as Strategic Communications Director for the 2016 Clinton presidential campaign, and they both join me now. Lots to chew over tonight. Thanks so much for both of you for being here.
Thanks, Martha.
You know, with regard to this CNN report, I just want to put up the statement from CNN's Brian Stelter. He said that a CNN spokeswoman says there will be no disciplinary action in this case because, unlike Brian Ross, ABC, MK Raju followed the editorial standards process. Multiple sources provided him with the incorrect info. When you put these stories together this week, though, Karl, you know, what do they say about perhaps a propensity to jump to judgment without checking all the numbers and dates, which are crucially important in the story?
Well, it shows the danger of trying to be in a rush to be the first. CNN broke the story. It was then followed by CBS. And ironically enough, the media outlet that corrected them both and blew the whistle on this was the Washington Post, which said, you got the dates wrong. You're conflating this, making it look like it's something that it's not. So it's a problem in the media culture in which we live, where everybody feels like they got to be the first. And particularly if it sounds like it's anti-Trump, then some media outlets are quick to rush through it. But it is an irony. CNN made the mistake. CBS quickly followed. And the people who set him straight were the Washington Post.
Brian Ross got a 4-week suspension without pay for his error. In the CNN case, they are not doing that. They feel that their reporter was, you know, that they fixed it in time and that's going to be enough. Adrian, you know, when you look at that and then you look at sort of the larger context of the stories that we've talked so much about this week with regard to the Mueller team and their conflicts and, you know, being like Weissman, for example, who was at the Hillary Clinton party, which turned out to not be much of a party that night, and all of their obvious support for her. Do you see that as a problem, as an American who wants to make sure that this is a fair system?
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, first of all, going back to what happened with CNN, it is critically important. There are so many moving parts in this investigation. It's critically important that every media outlet make sure that they check all the boxes, dot the I's, cross the T's before they go up with something. There's a lot of competition out there, and accuracy is incredibly important, especially when we're not even looking at this. At least in my view, it shouldn't always be a Democrat versus a Republican issue. We need to make sure that we as Americans protect ourselves from ever being under the influence of an adversarial government, again, in terms of influencing our electoral process. But secondly, look, I mean, there are a lot of moving parts in this investigation, but you see a lot of Republicans now who praised Mueller when he was initially appointed to oversee this investigation independently. And now people are saying, oh, wait, we don't think he's fair. We think he's too biased, when this is just, again, another example of Republicans trying to create chaos in a situation, given the fact that Mueller is getting closer and closer to determining getting to the bottom of this investigation.
You know, it's not so much about Mueller, Karl, as it is about some of the people that he chose to put on this team. And I think everyone feels that you can feel however you want about candidates and who you support. But it just raises the question, if you feel that strongly, are you the right person for this investigation?
Yeah. Look, I have confidence in Bob Mueller. I'm one of those people who at the beginning complimented the choice. I still have confidence in him. But Peter Strzok, removed in July. We find out about it in December. Bruce Orr, removed in the Justice Department. For having met with Steele, a Brit who was behind the so-called dossier. Andrew Weissman. Of the 15 attorneys that we know are involved in the Mueller investigation, 9 of them are political contributors and all of them are Democrats. So I thought Kim Strassel had a terrific column today in the Wall Street Journal, and her recommendation was that in order to keep confidence, to build confidence in his investigation, Mueller needed to have someone whose job it was to respond quickly to congressional requests for information and make certain that when things like Peter Strzok happen in July, we don't find out about it in November. People in Congress who are involved in these investigations find out it contemporaneously. Can I correct one other thing, though, in the reporting that we've been talking about here? The recusal of Jeff Sessions. It is required by law. In response to the appointment of Robert Kennedy by John Kennedy as his Attorney General and the John Mitchell appointment, the campaign chairman for Richard Nixon. The federal statute requires that if a matter comes up involving the presidential campaign and the attorney general had played a leading role in that campaign as an advisor or participant in the campaign, he must, as a matter of law, recuse himself. And Jeff Sessions, as the first Republican senator to endorse Trump and a senior advisor to President Trump, had no other course of action available to him except to recuse him under the explicit federal statute governing these kinds of situations.
All right. So you feel that he made the right choice, even given the fact that they were about to determine that
these two things were unconnected.
No mistakes in turning out those forms.
Yeah. And I would never, knowing Jeff Sessions like I do, I would absolutely have total confidence in that there was never anything in his behavior that was incorrect.
All right. You know, Adrienne, in terms of the Orr story this week, you know, just as one example of people who are close to this story, does it bother you to learn that he had meetings with Glenn Simpson, that he had meetings with Christopher Steele, who came up with that dossier? Because one of the main questions that remains here is whether or not the dossier is the document that this investigation was hinged upon.
Well, look, there's no proof out there that the dossier is why the FBI opened this investigation in the first place. The FBI opened this investigation because there were clear signs that Russia was possibly colluding with the Trump campaign to alter the election results. You know, and secondly, the dossier, I know there's been a lot of criticism, I understand that, but a lot of the information in the dossier is fact-based. And in my view, if anything in the dossier ultimately leads to determining what actually happened in the election, to get to the bottom of what happened is a good thing.
Karl Rove, Adrienne Elrod, thank you very much, you guys. Great to see you both tonight.